Welcome to this special edition of the Power Lunch on LinkedIn Live. I'm Rhett Power, your host. We do this program every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time on LinkedIn's new live platform, where we talk, and the point of the show, as you know, is to talk to today's thought leaders, best-selling authors, CEOs, corporate leaders, people who are doing great things in the world that we can learn from. We want to learn from their success, right? The fun part about this program is you know that it is interactive. So if we get questions, we can actually answer them on the air. If we don't get to them on the air, you know that we make a huge effort to get to the questions after on all the platforms. So, you know, please do send in your questions. And I know Vance and I, my guest today, will certainly pay attention to what you're asking online. The other thing is this is being simulcast on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube with the help of Social Live's new platform that they're working with LinkedIn on. Now, if you like the program, give it a like or share, spread the word so that we can all learn from our guest today. As you know, my promise to you is to have the best people. Today is no exception. I've got Vance Brown. He's the CEO of the National Cybersecurity Center and co-founder of Cherwell Software. He's been in the tech industry. He's been a tech leader for over 20 years. Nominated, one of the awards that stuck out to me, just because I was nominated for it and didn't win it, was the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award. He's won that. He has got a new book called Thrivers that we were going to talk about today. Vance, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rhett. Really appreciate being here.
Well, it pains me to have a Tar Heel on the program, but you know we've got to do it. We can't exclude here. We can't be, you know, we have to be inclusive.
Yeah.
We have to be inclusive here. So, you know, you've got a long history in the tech business, and a CEO of Cherwell, a gold mine software. You know, you've raised hundreds of millions of dollars for your businesses. Do you think it's a great time to start a business and to raise money and to get out there and bring a new product or service to market?
I can't imagine a better time to start a business. I mean, we've never had the tools like what you're doing here, and how we're doing this. I mean, this is just cool to be able to do this kind of thing and stream and get people's input. I mean, you know, back in the gold mine days, for instance, there was nothing like this. There was hardly websites, right? So much has exponentially changed. Now, your second part of that, though, I challenge, like, is it the great time to start a business and raise money? And I want to hold both. Yes, you can, but you don't have to, right? And so I pause there because, you know, as part of the book of, you know, it's big decisions of if and when you should take money. But in terms of the timing, a great time and opportunity in the history of the world to get involved, especially from my perspective in exponential technologies. This is an incredible time.
What kind of, I know this is, I don't know, it's not an easy question to answer, but what kind of businesses, what kind of products are really interesting to investors now?
You know, like for instance, I'm in cybersecurity, you know, and that's certainly a hot topic, cybersecurity and security technologies. And then the underlying technologies beneath those, you know, from, you know, AI and blockchain are you know, interesting topics as we know, with everything going on for blockchain and cryptocurrencies and the Facebook. And there's so many, you know, things that could be talked about in all those arenas. But there's just a lot of, you know, emerging technologies. Obviously, the internet changed the world like nothing else, and then so much has come from that. But certainly, those are some very hot topics.
Are those easier to raise money for than, say, like a product or like a service kind of company?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, it all comes down for investors, or at least, you know, the sophisticated investors. Like, you know, I've worked with, you know, organizations like the KKRs of the world. I mean, everybody's looking obviously for a return on investment, and if you can get higher multiples and certain like technologies and recurring revenue models, you know, lend for higher multiples. And if you can make $1 on $1, like in a service business, you know, and get a 1 multiple or 2 multiple, that's one thing. But, today you're seeing like 10 and 15x multiples on revenue, which is just mind boggling. I mean, I saw kind of stuff a little bit like that in the late 90s, but, it's amazing to see. And I don't totally quite understand why I get predictability of revenue, et cetera, but these kind of multiples are quite unusual in history.
Right. Well, no doubt. I'll sort of go over to cybersecurity for a second, or security. I do a lot of coaching and a lot of startups with small, medium-sized entrepreneurs, businesses. And everybody's worried about security. Everybody's thinking about security, but they don't know exactly what that means or how to, how to think about it, where to start. So if I'm a small, medium enterprise, what do I need to watch out for? What should my concerns be? And where should I go for help on this, if there's such a thing?
No, well, and by the way, you're not alone. I mean, when you use the word, what is cybersecurity? What is cyber? What does all this mean? And I mean, obviously, it's anything digital, right? Can be attacked, and it's happening. And I've talked to, like General Michael Hayden and General Petraeus and all these people who have been around and know, and there are people like them and others that say, cybersecurity or cyber attacks could be the greatest threat facing humanity today, right? In terms of what could be taken out. Because think about it, it's no longer the Internet of Things, it's the Internet of everything.
Right.
What's not on the Internet? What's not being measured? Where's your data going? Who's got it? Although we heard with the Facebook, and then it gets into things like, voter, like election integrity. I mean, we're going to read more and more about that. It was a hot topic a couple of years ago. It's going to be even higher moving forward. But to answer your question, I mean, it really is that 80-20. There's just some basic things you can do. 90% of all attacks that get into an organization or into your own home come through like a phishing scheme, which is, an email that, hey, click here. And, I'd say number one thing is don't. I mean, if you don't know exactly what it is, don't click on it.
It's not
no need. Like hold. You just don't need, but there are a lot of smart people in the social engineering realm that are doing everything they do. And they may know something about you that they know how to entice you to click on a button. Unless you know who it is or whatever, they just don't. And that alone will save you a lot right there. And then obviously, they're local, if you're a small business or whatever, there are a lot of organizations, small organizations that can do a lot to help you be more secure. And, just do a local search and find some of those reputable businesses, and they can help you out. And then they're like the National Cybersecurity Center. We're looking at, cyber awareness and public policy more from a national, global perspective on some of the things we're doing. We're more like a think tank.
Yeah, well, explain some of that work. I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, I'll give you, a couple examples. For instance, like this election integrity issue. We're working with organizations. In fact, we ran we were the project managers for the largest election using a mobile device for mobile voting, the live election in Denver, which is one of the top cities in the country on as far as security in elections. And we help and work. We're evaluating different blockchain approaches and mobile applications to where we believe really in 5-10 years we're still going to use manual ballots. Now there's a lot of people out there say you just have to use manual ballots. Well, if you really get into the details, there are a lot of problems with manual ballots too, right? And voting machines and all that. And we really believe that eventually we can show that, as it matures, that blockchain technology could be a way safer way to manage and audit and have more transparency into the voting process. So that's an example of the things we're not advocating any one thing. We're just, as a think tank, we're looking at different approaches. We're opening the door for like the city of Denver. We're getting ready to do another pilot like in Utah. And like the way we're experimenting with it now is to do the elections for, let's say, overseas ballots, right? Which, they're so insecure today. It's like an email going across and you print it out and you scan it, send it back. So in other words, we're our bar of what is secure with those kind of elections overseas, we can convince jurisdictions to say, hey, give us a shot at something much more secure today. But the goal is to look at it and evaluate it and make recommendations on it, and to make sure that it's mature enough to go live in let's say a larger election.
I've heard you speak about blockchain, I guess, and how I think the analogy you used was now it's much more expensive to defend. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I mean, sure, absolutely. Like if you think about it, and you take Equifax, take any, you hear about these attacks and where our personal identity has been stolen or whatever, and the problem is just the way database structures have been from the beginning. As client server, you got to, you have a single point of responsibility, or a single node that stores your information, right?
Right.
And you have replication and backups and all that. So I'm not talking about that, but I'm saying at the end of the day, there's a single point where your data is
one way in. Right.
And if you know there's a single point and you're attacking that, it's so expensive to defend because everybody knows where it is, more or less. And to defend a single node versus the cost of attacking, it's much more expensive to defend than it is to attack. So, like with the cybersecurity, the reason we're, very interested in blockchain technology is distributed ledger. It's distributed nodes, so that you might have to attack simultaneously 1,000, if not 1,000,000 nodes at the same time successfully in order to get in and change something successfully, right? And so that's a game changer from just the pure economics of the problem. If you really want to change the problem, you got to change the economics.
Right. And is it easier for than you to defend, the million, because I mean, how does that make sense?
It's distributed. There's not one single point of failure.
Okay.
Again, all databases today, are that are not, let's say, blockchain distributed, are single points of failure. So you go at it hard enough and you eventually get in. Right. But if you had to attack and you're an attacker and you're spending money on this and you've got to attack thousands of nodes at once, I'll go. Let me first find those that I can just find that single point of failure.
Right. So, yeah. Well, you go somewhere that's easier, right?
So it's expensive. In fact, the blockchain is depending on how many nodes, et cetera. It can feel almost impossible to break. Now you talk about quantum computing and these supercomputers, et cetera, and people, there are all kinds of arguments. But the point being is just no one would argue that it's much harder to attack multiple nodes at once rather than one node.
Right. Interesting. Are there some emerging technologies that you are interested in?
Yeah, I just mentioned those. Like I mentioned AI is also another one of those that is an IoT. Just all these devices and everything that's happening as far as IoT, and then what we can do with data. I mean, my daughter just graduated with a master's degree in data sciences, and you can imagine I was a big advocate of that because data now I've heard is more valuable in terms of data than oil. I just heard that statistic. I wish I had a site for you, but I heard it used to be wars. I think most all modern day wars were fought over oil. Well, now data is more valuable than that. So what does that mean? And so anything in terms of collecting data, sensors, in the book I use an example of sensors everywhere, sensors. I mean, that's just, and then okay, now the so what of that, once we collect data, what do we do with it? And do we make intelligent decisions? Then you've certainly got the, conspiracy theories and all that. It's not just some may be true and valid, but, what do we do when, people have all this kind of power and information and they're collecting it on us? That's a little scary. So anything that then secures that or gives us more privacy, therefore also is emerging. And so both sides of that equation. Yeah, we want to collect data and analyze it and make our lives easier, right? And on the other end of that, we want to make sure we maintain some of our privacy and that we're not taken advantage of.
Right. Well, you like it from the product side, right? If somebody's creating products that you want and need and that are helpful to you and solve some of your problems, that's great. But if that data is used for other things, it gets a little scary.
Right. And then you think of, like we're involved in space assets, those kinds of security there. Rarely do we understand like Just the implications of hacking into, all our satellites and, what that means. And, what would it mean flying blind, in terms of, our systems to track navigation, et cetera. So anyway, it's a fun time to be alive, and because of this exponential change we're seeing. And yes, but there's exponential good that can happen, and therefore exponential bad that can happen because the impact can be greater.
Well, let's talk about the book, Thrivers. What is a thriver? Where? Because I know it's you wrote the book, but you also have an organization that's doing a lot of mentoring and consulting, and so let's talk about both of those.
Yeah, sure. Well, probably a good place to start would be like where I even got the idea for this book, Thrivers. I can tell you a real life story. I was getting ready to close a big round of financing. I mean, it'd be a multi-million-dollar, round. And, I'm real big into culture, like what's the meaning in the company? What's the why? Like Simon Sinek. I mean, I love that stuff. And that's what gets me rolling. It gets me going. And therefore, when you get into negotiating a deal, you're thinking about who has what kind of control. And, and I'm trying to control the culture and make sure, that we don't change as far as our why. And of course, the VCs trying to make sure they have power because, they're trying to protect their investment, right? And they've got their customers, and they want to make sure they can exert control when needed, and trying to find that balance. And we were really getting a heated debate because he could tell I kept wanting to fight against certain terms in the agreement, and of course he was fighting on his end. And he said, Vance, you know what your problem is? And I'm like, no, you tell me what's my problem.
This would be interesting.
Yeah, and he said your problem is you're too much of a missionary. He said you just get too caught up in the why and the culture. Not that's not important, but like I represent people that are trying to make some money here, and that matters too. And I went, well, you know what your problem is then? And said, what? I said, well, your problem is you're too much of a mercenary. Needless to say, we didn't close that day. We were supposed to close that day, right? And then we both needed a couple of weeks to kind of breathe in a little bit and go. And I was, economics, computer science undergrad, so I think in terms of sometimes, putting some graphs together. And so I put after this call and after a day or so, I said, well, let me look at this. And I put on like mercenary, on an axis and missionary on the other axis, and to kind of plot it of like, where am I? And, to answer your question, I believe thriving is being able to do what you want to do and sustain that, and it be sustainable. You're not forced out if you love it. If you don't love it, you can get out and move on.
Yeah, right.
And so then I drew these, kind of quadrants, and, when there's very little, let's say, meaning and very little way to make money, I call that a dreamer. You don't have a company yet. You're just dreaming. You don't have really, until you get a customer, you're not a real thing, excuse me, kind of thing. And then if it's too much mission, where there's no way to make money, you're just going to kill everybody that joins you because they're not going to be able to, it's not sustainable to support the families. I call that's martyr. They're going to follow you to the cliff, and they're all going to fall off together. And then there's a lot of money to be made, but I have no reason to get up in the morning because money can only, they say, a certain amount of money you get, whatever, 75,000, and the diminishing returns of that are massive. Of like, but where's my why in my life? I don't have one. Well, that's not sustainable. So it'd be like you found gold in your backyard. You wait till the market's right, and then you sell it. Like, what other value is gold, right?
Right.
And so thriving is having where you have both. It's sustainable. It's the only quadrant that's sustainable because it's enough to make a living to where we're meeting or paying our bills, et cetera, and it has meaning and it's worth getting up for.
I like that a lot. What do you call that? You call that the Thrivers quadrant?
Yeah, the Thrivers quadrant.
Right.
What it takes to become a thriver. And then I think when I sit down with a lot of entrepreneurs, it doesn't take many questions to see where to plot them. Do they have it? It's just, it's a dream. And by the way, all great companies, they all start with a dream. So there's no shame in any of this. It's just being aware. It's more about awareness. And a lot of people do start a business because they're just trying turn a quick buck, right? Get rich quick. And, unfortunately, a lot of business schools I found that had a lot of, hey, go get an idea, go get a business plan, go raise money and be a multimillionaire in 2 or 3 years.
Right.
It's such a fake story, but it's, that's what people believe. And then, I think most people have lived a little longer life like we have. I mean, gosh, you want to feel like you're doing something good in the world, right? And so to really see, but sometimes if it's just that and you have no plan to make any money in it, and there's no way to make money in it, that's now called a hobby. And I've done that before. I tell my wife, hey, this is going to make a lot of money. She said, dude, it's been long enough. Just call it. It's fine. It's a hobby, but it's never going to make us any money.
Yeah, when you're spending money on it, it's a hobby, right?
Exactly. Just a hobby, and don't confuse the two.
Fair enough. What are the you talk about there's 6 peaks or key values in Thrivers that you talk about. What are those 6 things that you work on? Yeah,
the whole idea of we have just kind of a framework for, let's say, our mentoring, and we want it to be simple. At the end of the day, we came up with an acronym to the word shalom. Okay, this concept of peace, and it's from our research, not just peace, but it's such a, let's call it being fulfilled, to where not only is it peaceful, but it compels you to want to pay it forward and give it back. And there's such abundance. It's a concept of abundance versus even our Adam Smith model can feel like a scarcity and, oh my gosh, I've got to hang on. And right. And so it's a framework, and because a lot of times I think in accelerators or mentoring, it's just too much of a mercenary. You got to block and tackle well and know how to keep financials and measure things and have a plan, et cetera. But if you burn out in the process and crash and burn, it's not doing anybody any good, not your family, et cetera. So it's shalom. So let's start with S, and that's for story and innovation. And it's, I get most excited when I hear somebody who's passionate about let's say an innovation because of their own personal story, and it becomes the company story. And, for instance, Sharewell, my other company that I was a founder of, I wanted a term that was about sustain the test of time. And what is Sharewell? Well, Sharewell is a river in England, and in Oxford, it goes through Oxford. It's a tributary for the Thames. And it's on that river that J.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, used to stroll along to talk about great stories that became classics and survived the test of time. And so I wanted to be a story that would survive the test of time. So you can see, and I can tell that very quickly, and we want to be here forever and have that option. So story, the why of your company. H is health and wellness. It's everything from, we've learned the importance of mindfulness and, balance, you call it balance of life, but how you eat and nutrition and, you name it, mindfulness, et cetera, how important that is to mental well-being and exercising, et cetera. So then A is awareness. I mentioned a lot of times I use that quadrant mainly to say, well, you know where you are. Is it more about the money or more about you're aware to run the new kind of like profile called the Enneagram. You may or may not have heard of. It's a great present assessment to see. It's awareness. What are your strengths, and not only that, but where are your shadows? What comes with your kind of style of being. Right. And then L is for leadership. I love the great stories. The Henry V and the William Wallaces and the speeches they give, where people are so fired up, they're willing to lay down their life. Talk about a mission. You're willing to die for something. That's. They knew how to lead and inspire, and really teaching people how to. If you're going to lead people, they want to know that they're believed in, and you got their best interest at heart. You're taking them in a good path. And then O is operational excellence, and that's that blocking and tackling. You got to.
Basics.
Know what you're measuring, but it's what most MBA programs are all about, is that side. But yeah, you got to cross your T's and dot your I's, and you're not going to get any venture funding if you don't have proper reporting and you don't know what you're doing.
That's where most companies fail. I mean, that's
they're going to fail. To me, that's the that's the basics. That you got to get that down. There's no excuses. I know a lot in technology companies, a lot of people do stupid things where they find out at the end of the day that they didn't get a proper assignment of a contractor they used, and they don't own their intellectual property. That's a real problem, kind of thing when it comes to due diligence time. So things like that, legal, accounting, operational excellence. And then M is mentoring. Is there people that you're talking to constantly that are ahead of you, and they have experiences in life that can help you along the way. And I know, I think we all ought to have mentors that, let's say, are beside us, that in the same foxhole, same season of life, same struggles. You can compare notes and not feel so crazy. Somebody's been ahead of you, and then that thing of giving back, somebody that might be behind you in life that you can help out.
That's and so does the company, what does the company do? What does Thrivers do?
Yeah, in terms of, Thrivers, it's really to take people through that framework and always check in those categories from a mentoring standpoint to make sure, you're blocking and tackling well. And, oh, by the way, what's your relationship with your spouse? How's that going? Because I've been married now for over 30 years, and I've been through seasons that, the number one question that a board chair should have asked me at the time was not about our financial statement, but are you staying married? Because things are so hard, right? I mean, that's life. Because if you go down because that's not working, you cannot. It's going to have impact on the business when your personal life is blowing up. So it's really looking at both sides of that and checking in.
That's good. What so where can people go if they want help, because I know you guys provide mentoring. Can they just contact Thrivers, the organization, or is it locally focused, or are you taking clients on from anywhere?
Yeah, I think the best thing was Thrivers.com, right? We're there, and we can we have a place you can sign in and ask us questions and find out more about what we're doing. So we're not just in one location. In fact, it's virtual. I've got an incredible partner named Tim Oakley, for instance, who's in North Carolina, right?
Okay.
My background, as far as where I'm from. And so he's been a business partner. So yes, so it's more virtual. At the same time, it's important. You can accomplish a lot over the phone, but physically getting together also is very.
And if there are coaches that want to help mentor and help you guys do that and volunteer some of their time, do you take on people that are willing to help others?
And that is the goal, I would say, currently right now, because we're fairly new in terms of Thrivers. Like we've been, let's say, testing some of this methodology of Siloam now. That's kind of we're not dreamers yet, but we're probably more in the mission side of that aspect of it.
Okay.
But yes, ultimately we want to scale and, help people with this kind of, if they agree with this kind of framework and they are coaches. The goal would be at some point in the future to bring people into call it the Thrivers organization as both coach and mentor on one side, and then finding the mentorees of those that want to be coached and connect the dots there.
Okay, good. Well, and you can buy the book there at thrivers.org.
Thrivers.com, yeah.
Thrivers.com.
We have both, but yeah.
Okay. And you can buy it online at Amazon and other bookstores, I'm guessing. Thank you so much. This has been fantastic. I do want to have you back at some point because I think there's some, I want to dive deeper into I want to talk about the book today, mostly because you are going to be on one of my Forbes lists this summer for the book. But I do want to bring you back and talk about cybersecurity because I think that's a fascinating topic, and I want to get your thoughts on some sort of current things that are going on. But thank you so much for your time, Vance.
Hey, my pleasure. It's been quite enjoyable.
All right, guys, join me next Tuesday on Power Lunch Live at 12 o'clock noon Eastern Standard Time. I've got best-selling author Diane Kander on the program to talk about her new book. And visit Power Lunch Live, powerlunch.live for the upcoming schedule and to reach us if you have a topic idea or to suggest a guest. And again, thank you for your time. It's been a special edition of Power Lunch Live on this Friday afternoon. And have a good weekend, everyone.